Monroe County is rich in history. For some, the interest is in the French-Canadian ancestry. For others, it is in the Battle of the River Raisin, which was one of the largest engagements in the War of 1812. But for many, Monroe is the home of Custer. Hi, my name is Dave Carey, and I am a student at Madonna University, and I'm here at the Monroe Historical Museum. This museum has one of the largest displays of Custer memorabilia on this side of the Mississippi. I hope that you enjoy as we go through Custer's life.
George Armstrong Custer was born in New Rumley, Ohio on December 5, 1839. His father was the village blacksmith and a farmer. Custer's family called him Armstrong, but when he tried to pronounce his name himself as a young child, it came out as Audie, and the nickname stuck. George developed an interest in the military early in life. At the age of 4, his mother sewed a militia outfit for him, and he pretended being a soldier with a toy musket. This would later become his career. At the age of 10, George was sent to live with his half-sister Lydia in Monroe, Michigan. She was newly married and missed her family since they were 200 miles away. Audie lived with her until she got used to her new surroundings. This is how his connection with Monroe, Michigan came about. George was very close with Lydia. She was like a second mother to him. 2 years later, he went back to help his father on the farm in Ohio. At the age of 14, his father sent him back to Monroe because Michigan had better educational opportunities. There, George attended the Stebbins Young Men's Academy. George was naturally bright and seldom did homework. He did well, though. Mr. Stebbins said that George was a credit to the school. At this time, George developed an interest in reading novels, especially military ones. At this time, he decided that he wanted to go to West Point. Custer was appointed to West Point in 1857. He graduated near the bottom of his class as a second lieutenant. Other famous military men, such as General Grant, Stonewall Jackson, Joe Hooker, and Phil Sheridan, all finished near the bottom of their class as well. Students who were not as good academically were known more so as fighters. Custer was such a man. He was aggressive and a man of action. He was known for quick thinking and quick action. He always had his mind on the objective. When the Civil War started, the Union was looking for decisive leaders who were not afraid to fight. For this reason, Custer was chosen as a leader, even though he graduated near the bottom of his class. From 1861 to 1865, Custer fought in numerous battles. In 1862, he became a captain. In 1863, he became Brigadier General at the age of 23 years old. He was the youngest person in history to attain such a rank. Custer led his troops in many Civil War battles. One battle of interest was Gettysburg, when he led the Michigan Cavalry against Jeb Stuart. Custer was heard to shout, "Come on, you Wolverines," as they went into battle.
What we have today are a number of articles that were picked up by the Michigan Cavalry Brigade site at Gettysburg. These articles are directly related to George Armstrong Custer. This is a carbine hook. You'd take the carbine and hang this on the end of it. Over here we have a stirrup that would come off of the saddle of a horse. This is a saber. You can see how that would fit on to the back. And also, we have what would be a pistol. Now, all these are related to the Michigan Cavalry Brigade, which is the unit that came from this area and was first taken care of by George Armstrong Custer. It was his first major command, and the Gettysburg battle is probably the battle that he's most famous for.
General Custer was aggressive and always wanted to get an edge on his enemy. He once went up in a hot air balloon to observe enemy encampments and charted a map of their positions. George had met Elizabeth Libby Bacon in Monroe, Michigan as a young boy. She was the daughter of a local judge. They got married on February 9th, 1864, at the First Presbyterian Church in Monroe, Michigan, which still stands today. They lived in Judge Bacon's house. This house has been moved to another location, and it too stands today. The Monroe Historical Museum was built on the original house site. George and Libby never had any children. At the time of his death, they were married for 12 years. George Custer was an avid hunter and taxidermist. He hunted numerous types of animals, including elk, deer, antelope, and bear. The elk mount, as well as others, are on display at the Monroe County Historical Museum. In 1864, George Custer was made a major general at the age of 24 years old. He was considered invaluable by the Union Army. In 1865, when the Civil War ended, Custer received the White Flag from General Robert E. Lee. Major General Phil Sheridan thought so highly of Custer's Civil War accomplishments that he gave Mrs. Custer the table on which General Lee signed the surrender. A replica of the table is in the Monroe County Historical Museum. After the Civil War, Custer was commissioned as the Lieutenant Colonel of the 7th Cavalry. In 1866, he was sent to the Western Plains to fight the Indians. He was known as a great collector of Indians. He assisted in rounding them up and sending them to reservations. During this time period, it was not uncommon for soldiers to desert and search for wealth in the nearby Kansas mines. Custer made a poor decision by ordering his officers to shoot deserters without a trial. He was court-martialed in 1867 for his actions. He received a 1-year suspension. After his suspension, General Custer fought the Indian Wars in the Dakota Territory from 1873 to 1876. In 1876, Custer left on an expedition in the Black Hills against the Sioux and Cheyenne Indians. With him were his brothers Thomas and Boston, his brother-in-law James Calhoun, and his nephew George. Custer and 2 other officers, Reno and Benteen, split in 3 directions to surround the Indians. General Custer came upon a large village of Indians and sent a message to his officers to come to his position. The officers holed up instead. As a result, Custer was greatly outnumbered. On June 25, 1877, General George Armstrong Custer and 266 other men were killed by the Sioux Indians at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. When the city of Monroe heard of his death, it went into mourning.
If you go to the spot of the last stand and you stand in the greasy grass and you stand listening to the wind, everybody that goes there says it's one of the saddest places on the earth, because you can sit there and realize it's the last great stand of the Native people. It's the last chance that the Civil War really had to influence the cavalry of the armed forces. This is the last great superhero of the Civil War going to his death. There's a lot of sadness there. And because of that, the last stand stands out to all of us over the years.
Custer was 37 years old when he died. General Custer was buried at West Point. The city of Monroe dedicated a statue of Custer on June 4, 1910. Libby Custer and President Taft were present at the dedication. Much controversy has surrounded General Custer due to the nature of his death at Little Bighorn. Some people felt that he was responsible for the tragic end. His wife Libby spent the rest of the next 55 years trying to protect her husband's name. She died on April 4, 1933.
General George Custer had a colorful life. For some, he will be remembered as a Civil War hero. For others, he will be remembered as one of the youngest generals in history. Yet, others will remember him as a fool, one who led his troops into a massacre. Regardless of how he is remembered, General George Custer holds a special place in the heart of Monroe and also in our country. I'm Dave Carey, and thanks for watching.